Hello everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful, caring, loving, beautiful, strong, working moms here in the room and all over the world. You are very special. Today's topic, of course, will be moms or mothers, of course, because today is Mother's Day. And our reading is from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 18 to 37. 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 18 to 37. And it's titled, Elisha Raises the Shunamite Son. Elisha raises the Shunamite son. And I'll be reading it myself today. It's actually the sermon is taken from the passage 2 Kings 4, 8 to 37, but because it's long, I'm going to just read from verses 18 to 26, just to save on time. When the child had grown, he went out one day to his father among the reapers, and he said to his father, "Oh, my head, my head." The father said to his servant, "Carry him to his mother." And when he had lifted him and brought him to his mother, the child sat on her lap till noon, and then he died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door behind him and went out. Then she called to her husband and said, "Send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back again." And he said, "Why will you go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath." She said, "All is well." Then she saddled the donkey, and she said to her servant, "Urge the animal on. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When the man of God saw her coming, he said to Gehazi, his servant, "Look, there is the Shunamite. Run at once to meet her and say to her, is all well with you? Is all well with your husband? Is all well with the child?" And she answered, "All is well." This is the word of the Lord. Praise be to God. This is the story of a remarkable woman, a remarkable mother. If we started to read from verse 8 and read until verse 17, the first part of this amazing story, we would have a more complete picture of the Shunamite woman. Mainly that she had accommodated the man of God, Elisha, in her home by building him a room on their house roof, or on the roof of their house. The idea was that Elisha would have a place to stay when he would come around, when he came to visit in the area. And in turn, Elisha was so touched by this gesture that he had offered to do for her whatever she wanted, using his influence with the king and the army commander, of course. And of course, she had refused this offer because, but even though she refused, Elisha had consulted with his servant, Gehazi, or Gehazi, depending on how you pronounce it. And he had promised her the child that we just read about in the passage that I just read. So, beautiful people of God, we can learn a thing or two from this nameless Shunamite woman. At least, we know that she comes from a town or a place called Shunam, and that's why she's called Shunamite. I wonder how I would be called, Brookvillian or Maitlandish. The Brookvillian woman or the Maitlandish woman. Anyway, so here goes. Number one, the Shunamite woman was calm in the midst of great adversity. One striking thing that I see is the lack of panic the lack of distress, at least outwardly. If she was panicking, she's keeping it to herself. Compare this to me, for instance. You know, a couple of days ago, I was told that my son's scooter that I took time to drop off at his school for a special event was never given to him. It never got to him on time, and he missed out on participating, you know, at that event that he was looking so forward to participate in. You know, immediately, of course, I'm raising my voice over the phone, you know, to the other woman speaking to me at the other end of the phone, saying, you know, what do you mean he didn't get it? You know, this is unacceptable. Did you know that he came to school just for that event? He actually had an accident at a birthday party a couple of days before and was all bruised and whatnot. And he would have stayed home, but he wanted to participate so much at this sports event that he made an effort to go, and now he couldn't participate. So I was shocked, I was mad, I was angry, and you know, I was so disappointed, and I was letting her know, the poor woman on the other side of the phone. And I went on blah 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 blah. Well, we panic a lot, we react a lot. We lose our tempers so easily. We get angry so quick. The book of Proverbs 16:32, is actually a great reminder for people like myself. Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. So the Shunamite woman was calm in the midst of great adversity. Number 2, the Shunamite woman had faith that removes mountain. She's full of faith. She had faith that God, through the man of God, you know, through his servant, the man of God, Elisha, was going to raise her son from the dead. I didn't say, you know, from a sickness or from a sleep or from a coma, from the dead. You know, God forbids, but, you know, if someone or when someone dies in our midst, the first thing that comes to our mind is probably, you know, to start preparing funeral arrangements for that person. Not so with this woman. We read the story. She had faith to provoke divine intervention. Say, faith to provoke divine intervention.
Faith to provoke divine intervention.
Amen. And so it should be with everyone, and especially with every mother. There are 10,000 things that can go wrong in our lives, in our children's lives, in our household, people's lives, or, you know, in the lives of those we love, those at large. So it is paramount that we are not led by panic no matter what, but by faith that removes mountains. I mean, there's nothing that I know of that could be more panicking, that could cause more panic than someone, especially your child, dying in your hands. And yet the Shunamite did not panic. Matthew 17:20, it says, "For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." So instead of panic, she had great faith that her son could be resurrected. So mothers think big, mothers dream big, mothers plan big, and do things big. All this without even thinking of themselves, or without putting themselves first. I mean, have you read the woman of Proverbs 31? Most of us know Proverbs 31, you know, a woman of valor who can find. She's worth far more than rubies. Well, she is a mother too. Did you know that? Verse 28 of Proverbs 31, it says, "Her children rise up and call her blessed." And when you read the list of things she does, it is amazing. She is almost superhuman, extra busy all the time. There is actually a book written called 10-minute timeouts for moms. 10-minute timeouts for moms. Moms can be extremely busy, and the only time they could afford could be only 10 minutes for themselves throughout the day. So Proverbs 31 again, verse 15, she rises while it is yet night. Verse 18, her lamp does not go out at night. Yes, moms are very busy human beings. That's the nature of our calling as mothers. So it helps that they have faith that removes mountains. It makes the job much more easier, especially, you know, when there are hiccups, and there will be hiccups. Number 3, the Shunamite woman was hospitable. You know, she provided hospitality for Elisha. Some Bible translations call this woman a great woman. Others call her a wealthy woman, a leading woman. I don't think we have to be leaders or wealthy, you know, to be hospitable. Being hospitable to whomever visits our house is part of, you know, of our calling as Christians. But it is especially a part of our culture in my country of origin, Ethiopia. I remember, you know, visiting some farmlands. I was actually a farmer, not a farmer. I went to an agricultural school, so that was my specialization early on in life, my first degree. So I was part of this organization, a research organization, and we would take out either seeds or, you know, fertilizers or whatever technologies had come up, had been prepared for farmers, and we would take it to those farm households, you know, that usually were very subsistence farmers, meaning they did not make any profits from their farming. They were barely making money out of farming. They used farming for themselves. So this organization tried to help them, you know, modernize their ways of farming, or provide the best seeds for planting, and so on and so forth. So I remember visiting this very, very poor households, farming households, especially households of widows, led by widows, because the man was dead. And those widows will welcome us with the best smile you can think of. They would give us food to eat, you know, things to drink, from whatever small things they had. They did not held back. I remember one specific time when this lady, she gave us some fried eggs, and I know that is a luxurious meal for her. Usually they don't fry eggs, you know, they don't eat luxury foods. For them, that's luxury. And then when we asked her, come, let's eat together, she said, oh, no, I've just eaten, you go ahead and eat. But I know it's because, you know, she doesn't have enough, and if she ate with us, there wouldn't be enough. So she pretended like she was full, when I know she was hungry. So very hospitable. The Bible encourages us to be friendly, to be kind, to be generous, to be hospitable, to believers, but also to strangers, people we do not know, people who end up coming to our doors. This is a very, very encouraged virtue in the Bible. I mean, it says people have met angels unawares by doing so. Hebrews 13:2, it says, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Who knows? The person who came to your door, instead of thinking he's the next serial killer, maybe he's an angel. So you need to be hospitable. I think Canada needs a good dose of hospitality and generosity in their veins, in their blood system. Generosity, hospitality, friendliness. And today, you know, on Mother's Day, all of us, we have a chance to be a little bit generous towards the women in our lives. And in this congregation, in this little small congregation, today we also have prepared some nice presents to all the mothers in the room. Yay! Get excited! I feel a little bit like Oprah handing out presents. in her show. Anyways, we want to honor mothers, so we have prepared some packages for the beautiful, awesome mothers in our lives. Number 4, the Shunamite woman was discreet. She did not tell her troubles to Elisha's servant, Gehazi. She waited until she found who she's looking for before sharing what's on her heart. Did you notice? She didn't even tell or share with her husband the news that their son was dead. She didn't even tell him that was the reason why she needed whatever she needed from him. She was determined. She was single focused. She was very discreet. So especially when it comes to things involving our children, we should be very discreet. You know, I have heard a lot of stories of PK kids, you know, what they call PK kids, pastors' kids. They grow up getting embarrassed. You know, they grow up, and some actually can be seriously turned off by their pastor parents, sharing everything about them, you know, without their permission, especially, you know, as they grow up. You know, as kids, maybe it's okay. You know, they probably don't mind that much. And I do notice actually that I share a lot about my kids. I just did today about, you know, the scooter, you know, not taking the scooter at his home. So I do share things about my kids in my sermons. But as, you know, as they grow up, as they become teens, and later on as they become adults, we have to be very careful what we say about them or concerning them. So as mothers, we have to learn to be you know, to be discreet, especially with businesses involving our loved ones. You know, be it biological children, be it spiritual children, or children we have, you know, children we are authority over, like, you know, as teachers, as social workers, and so on and so forth. There's actually an interesting verse again in Proverbs 11:22. It says, like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman who shows no discretion. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman who shows no discretion. You know, other translations say who has no common sense, or, you know, or some other translations say who has an empty head. So discretion is important. Here's one definition on the internet that I found while I was preparing this message. Collins Dictionary. If you are discreet, you are polite and careful in what you do or say, because you want to avoid embarrassing or offending someone. So some usages for the word discreet is they were gossipy and not always discreet. So almost like being, it's almost like being gossipy. And some synonyms of discreet, you know, being discreet are tactful, diplomatic, politic, or reserved, which makes sense, I think. So to recap, the Shunamite woman was calm even in the face of great adversity. She had faith that removes mountains. She believed the impossible. She was hospitable without asking for anything in return. And she was very discreet, choosing what to say, to whom, and when. So we can learn a lot from this extraordinary woman, from this incredible mother. And I believe the reason she was so amazing was because of her relationship with God and her intimacy with God. Even though it's not written specifically in the Bible, we see this in her decision to honor a man of God, a man who carries the Spirit of God. And we see it in her contentment with life. Because when Elisha had mentioned if he could repay her generosity and kindness by showing her favor before powerful men, she said she didn't need anything. Anybody else would have jumped at the opportunity and say, you know, say this word on my behalf to the king. Say this word on my behalf to the commander-in-chief. But she said, no, I have everything that I need. 1 Timothy 6, verses 6-8, we read, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with this we will be content. Contentment. We need to learn contentment, to be content. Now let's face it, extraordinary and amazing moms don't always have it together. We have moments when we're not the most loving, caring, or or even when we hurt the ones who have been entrusted to us, especially if we have not been properly nurtured ourselves. Our mothers and fathers are actually God's plan to represent Him, His love and care for us. They are the lens through which we see God. Therefore, the presence or lack of nurture and affection can affect our relationship with people and our relationship with God. We learn basic trust as we experience affectionate touch, such as, hugs, such as skin to skin. That is very encouraged, even from doctors, from hospitals. Gentle and tender tone of voice, etc. And we need to receive those things from both parents, but especially our mothers with whom we spend a lot of time during our early years. We actually go more in depth in this teaching when we do inner healing. So as I wrap up today's sermon, I would like to mention something important that many tend to forget as we get lost in the many, phone calls, text messages, gift giving, the special outings, pampering and whatnot that Mother's Day usually entails. Today, as much as mothers are celebrated around the world for being, wonderful beings that they are, there are many who may find this day and the occasion for which we remember it very painful and extremely difficult. There are many women who have lost their children and may feel lonely today. There are those who have difficult relationships with their children or their loved ones and may not even be on speaking terms. As we know, the devil is busy stealing, killing, and destroying, and mothers do not get any special treatment. They are on his hit list. So we are going to lift them up during our ministry time. The Holy Spirit, of course, is the comforter, and he promises that he will comfort us as a mother comforts her child and restore what is missing. Amen?
Amen.
Happy Mother's Day again, most beloved of God. Love you and abundant blessings on you and yours on this special occasion of Mother's Day. Love you.